Black studies emerges as a vital discipline within academia, reflecting on the historical, cultural, and social experiences of Black people worldwide. At its core lies a profound sense of social responsibility, aimed at dismantling systemic injustices and fostering a more equitable society. This essay explores the intricate relationship between Black studies and social responsibility, delving into its historical roots, contemporary significance, and potential for transformative change. Through an interdisciplinary lens, it examines the multifaceted contributions of Black studies to academia, activism, and community engagement, highlighting its pivotal role in shaping narratives, challenging hegemonic structures, and advocating for justice. By elucidating the interconnectedness between knowledge production and social action, this essay underscores the imperative of embracing social responsibility within Black studies as a catalyst for progressive social change. Introduction. Black studies, also known as Africana studies, African American studies, or Pan-African studies, emerges as a dynamic interdisciplinary field dedicated to the examination of Black experiences, histories, cultures, and contributions. Rooted in the struggles for liberation and self-determination, Black studies epitomizes a profound commitment to social responsibility, seeking to illuminate the complexities of Black life while challenging systems of oppression. This essay aims to elucidate the symbiotic relationship between Black studies and social responsibility, highlighting how this discipline serves as a site of resistance, resilience, and transformation. Through a comprehensive exploration of its historical evolution, theoretical frameworks, and contemporary praxis, we uncover the ways in which Black studies navigates the terrain of academia, activism, and community engagement, embodying a collective ethos of justice, equity, and liberation. Historical perspectives. The origins of Black studies can be traced back to the tumultuous landscapes of the mid-20th century, marked by the civil rights movement, decolonization struggles, and global calls for Black liberation. Amidst these transformative currents, scholars, activists, and intellectuals embarked on a quest to reclaim Black histories, challenge Eurocentric narratives, and forge spaces of intellectual autonomy. The establishment of Black studies programs in universities across the United States during the late 1960s and early 1970s represented a watershed moment in this endeavor, signaling a shift from exclusion to inclusion within the academy. The pioneering works of figures such as W.E.B. Du Bois, Carter G. Woodson, and Frantz Fanon laid the groundwork for Black studies by interrogating the legacies of slavery, colonialism, and racism. Du Bois' seminal work, The Souls of Black Folk, illuminated the double consciousness experienced by African Americans, while Woodson's scholarship emphasized the importance of reclaiming Black history as a means of empowerment. Fanon's writings on decolonization and the psychosocial effects of colonialism resonated with liberation movements across the global South, underscoring the interconnectedness of Black struggles worldwide. The emergence of Black studies coincided with broader movements for social justice, including Black Power, Pan-Africanism, and Third World Solidarity. These movements emphasized the agency and autonomy of Black people, rejecting assimilationist approaches in favor of self-determination and cultural affirmation. Black studies served as a vehicle for articulating these aspirations, providing a platform for critical engagement with issues of race, class, gender, and sexuality. Theoretical frameworks. Black studies encompasses a diverse array of theoretical frameworks and methodological approaches, reflecting its interdisciplinary nature and commitment to intersectional analysis. Central to this endeavor is the concept of intersectionality, developed by legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw, which highlights the interconnectedness of race, gender, class, and other axes of identity. Intersectional analysis enables scholars to examine the ways in which multiple forms of oppression intersect and compound one another, shaping individuals' lived experiences. Other theoretical frameworks within Black studies include Afrocentrism, which emphasizes the centrality of African culture and history to the global human experience, Black feminism, which highlights the unique struggles of Black women and critiques patriarchal structures within Black communities, and critical race theory, which interrogates the ways in which racism is embedded within legal, political, and social institutions. Contemporary praxis. In the contemporary moment, Black studies continues to evolve in response to shifting social, political, and economic landscapes. Scholars within the field are engaged in a wide range of research topics, including but not limited to the impact of mass incarceration on Black communities, environmental justice, and the disproportionate effects of environmental degradation on Black and marginalized communities. The globalization of hip-hop culture and its implications for diasporic identities. Black queer studies and the intersections of race, gender, and sexuality. The role of Black women in social movements and political organizing. Afrofuturism and speculative fiction as modes of imagining alternative futures. In addition to producing knowledge within academic settings, Black studies scholars are actively involved in community-based research, activism, and advocacy. Community-engaged scholarship seeks to bridge the gap between academia and the broader community, prioritizing the needs and perspectives of marginalized groups. This approach recognizes the importance of reciprocity, collaboration, and mutual respect in knowledge production and social change. Conclusion. In conclusion, Black studies occupies a central role in interrogating systems of power, advocating for justice, and fostering social responsibility. By centering the experiences, perspectives, and struggles of Black people, this interdisciplinary field challenges hegemonic narratives, empowers marginalized communities, and envisions alternative futures. The ongoing struggle for racial justice underscores the urgency of embracing social responsibility within Black studies and beyond, recognizing that the pursuit of knowledge is inseparable from the pursuit of justice. As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, Black studies serves as a beacon of hope, resilience, and transformation, illuminating pathways towards a more equitable and just society. The American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, was a pivotal moment in United States history, marked by the struggle for emancipation and the preservation of the Union. At the heart of this conflict were the courageous contributions of Black soldiers who, despite facing racial prejudice and discrimination, played a crucial role in reshaping the course of the war. This essay delves into the experiences, challenges, and triumphs of Black soldiers during the Civil War, exploring their motivations, military service, and the profound impact they had on the struggle for freedom and equality. Background and motivations. As the war between the northern and southern states intensified, the Union faced a dire need for manpower. In 1862, with the passage of the Emancipation Proclamation by President Abraham Lincoln, the Union Army officially opened its ranks to African Americans, both free and formerly enslaved. The call for Black soldiers presented an opportunity for these individuals to actively participate in their own liberation while contributing to the broader fight against slavery. Motivations for enlistment varied among Black soldiers. For some, it was a chance to prove their loyalty to the Union and assert their rights as citizens. Others saw military service as a means to secure freedom for themselves and their families. The prospect of ending the institution of slavery, a root cause of the conflict, served as a powerful motivator for many Black enlistees. The formation of Black regiments. The enlistment of Black soldiers led to the formation of segregated regiments, commonly known as the United States Colored Troops, USCT. These units were commanded by white officers, reflecting the prevailing racial attitudes of the time. Despite the limitations imposed by segregation, Black soldiers seized the opportunity to demonstrate their military prowess and commitment to the Union cause. The 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry Regiment, one of the most renowned Black regiments, gained widespread recognition for its bravery and sacrifice. Led by Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, a white officer, the 54th Massachusetts played a pivotal role in the assault on Fort Wagner in July 1863. Though the attack resulted in heavy casualties, the regiment's valor challenged prevailing notions of Black soldiers' abilities and paved the way for further integration of African Americans into the Union Army. Military service and challenges. Black soldiers faced a myriad of challenges during their military service, extending beyond the perils of the battlefield. Racial prejudice persisted within the Union Army, leading to unequal pay, limited opportunities for advancement, and harsher punishments compared to their white counterparts. Despite these challenges, Black soldiers persevered, demonstrating their dedication to the cause of freedom. Discrimination was not limited to within the military, it extended to the treatment of black prisoners of war. Confederate forces, disregarding traditional rules of war, often subjected captured black soldiers to harsher treatment, including enslavement or execution. This added a layer of complexity to the experiences of black soldiers, as they navigated not only the dangers of combat but also the constant threat of racial violence. Impact on the war effort. The contributions of black soldiers had a profound impact on the course of the Civil War. Their service bolstered Union ranks, providing a crucial infusion of manpower. The Battle of Fort Pillow in 1864, where Confederate forces massacred black soldiers and their white officers after surrendering, highlighted the racially charged nature of the conflict and fueled the resolve of black troops to fight for their freedom. As the war progressed, the effectiveness of the USCT became increasingly evident. Black soldiers participated in key battles such as the Siege of Petersburg and the Battle of Nashville, proving their mettle on the battlefield. Their dedication and bravery forced a re-evaluation of prevailing racial stereotypes and paved the way for a more inclusive approach to military service. The legacy of black soldiers. The end of the Civil War marked the beginning of a new era for the United States. The 13th Amendment, ratified in 1865, abolished slavery, signaling a monumental shift in the nation's history. The contributions of black soldiers played a crucial role in shaping public opinion and influencing political decisions that led to this transformative moment. The legacy of black soldiers in the Civil War extended beyond the battlefield. Their service challenged prevailing racial norms and contributed to the broader struggle for civil rights. As the nation grappled with the challenges of Reconstruction, black veterans emerged as leaders in their communities, advocating for political and social equality. Post-war challenges and Reconstruction. Despite their sacrifices and contributions, black soldiers faced numerous challenges in the post-war period. The promises of freedom and equality often remained elusive as Southern states enacted black codes and implemented segregationist policies, attempting to reassert control over the newly liberated African American population. The struggles of black soldiers continued during Reconstruction, a tumultuous period marked by political upheaval and social change. Many black veterans actively participated in the political process, holding elected offices and advocating for policies that promoted civil rights. However, the rise of white supremacist groups, such as the Ku Klux Klan, posed a severe threat to the progress made by black soldiers and their communities. Recognition and honors. In the years following the Civil War, efforts were made to recognize and honor the contributions of black soldiers. The establishment of national cemeteries, such as Arlington National Cemetery, provided a final resting place for both Union and Confederate soldiers, regardless of race. However, the struggle for recognition extended beyond burial grounds. The presentation of military honors, including the Medal of Honor, became a contentious issue. Many black soldiers performed acts of heroism on the battlefield, yet their contributions were often overlooked or downplayed. In recent years, there has been a re-evaluation of this historical oversight, with efforts to posthumously award medals of honor to black soldiers who were unjustly denied recognition during their lifetimes. Conclusion. The role of black soldiers in the Civil War is a testament to their resilience, courage, and determination in the face of adversity. From the motivations that led them to enlist to the challenges they confronted on the battlefield and the subsequent struggles for equality, the journey of black soldiers reflects the broader arc of American history. Their contributions were instrumental in reshaping the nation, challenging deeply ingrained prejudices, and laying the foundation. Discipline in Black children today, navigating old-school approaches and modern perspectives. Introduction. The subject of discipline in Black children is multifaceted, shaped by historical, cultural, and societal factors. Traditional or old-school methods of discipline often varied widely, incorporating both positive and negative approaches. In contrast, contemporary or new school perspectives emphasize a more holistic and nuanced approach, considering the impact of discipline on a child's psychological and emotional well-being. This article aims to explore the evolution of discipline in Black children, comparing old school methods to new school approaches, and considering the implications for child development and the broader community. I. Historical context of old school discipline. A. Legacy of slavery. The historical context of discipline in Black children is deeply rooted in the legacy of slavery, where brutal methods were employed to control and subjugate individuals. This historical trauma has had lasting effects on Black communities, shaping perceptions of discipline and authority. B. Corporal punishment. Old school discipline often included the use of corporal punishment as a means of correcting behavior. Spanking, whipping, or other forms of physical discipline were considered acceptable methods in many households and educational institutions. The belief in the adage, "spare the rod, spoil the child," was prevalent, contributing to the normalization of corporal punishment. C. Strict hierarchical structures. Old school discipline was often characterized by strict hierarchical structures, where children were expected to show unwavering respect for authority figures, including parents, teachers, and elders. Disobedience or disrespect was met with swift and sometimes harsh consequences. D. Fear-based discipline. Fear was a significant motivator in old school discipline. Children were often disciplined in ways that instilled fear, aiming to deter undesirable behavior through the anticipation of negative consequences. This approach, however, had implications for the emotional and psychological well-being of the child. 2. New school perspectives on discipline. A. Psychological understanding. Modern perspectives on discipline prioritize a more nuanced understanding of child psychology. Recognizing the impact of trauma and the importance of positive reinforcement, new school approaches aim to foster a child's emotional and psychological well-being rather than relying solely on punitive measures. B. Positive reinforcement. The emphasis on positive reinforcement is a key aspect of contemporary discipline. Rather than focusing solely on punishment, new school approaches seek to reinforce positive behavior through encouragement, praise, and rewards. This shift recognizes the importance of building a child's self-esteem and confidence. C. Communication and dialogue. Communication is a cornerstone of new school discipline. Parents, educators, and caregivers are encouraged to engage in open and constructive dialogue with children, fostering a sense of understanding and trust. This approach values the child's perspective and encourages them to express themselves. D. Holistic development. New school perspectives prioritize holistic development, considering not only academic success but also emotional, social, and physical well-being. The goal is to create an environment that supports the child's overall growth and encourages the development of critical thinking skills. 3. Cultural dynamics and discipline. A. Cultural sensitivity. Discipline in Black children is often influenced by cultural dynamics. New school approaches advocate for cultural sensitivity, recognizing the importance of understanding and respecting cultural backgrounds. This includes acknowledging the impact of historical trauma on disciplinary practices within Black communities. B. Empowerment and identity. New school perspectives seek to empower Black children by promoting a positive sense of identity. Discipline is approached in a way that uplifts rather than diminishes a child's sense of self-worth. This includes incorporating culturally relevant elements into educational and disciplinary practices. C. Breaking the school-to-prison pipeline. An important aspect of modern perspectives on discipline in Black children involves addressing the school-to-prison pipeline. Disproportionate disciplinary actions, particularly for Black boys, have contributed to a cycle of incarceration. New school approaches aim to break this cycle by implementing restorative justice practices and promoting a supportive school environment. 4. Challenges and criticisms. A. Resistance to change. The transition from old school to new school discipline faces resistance from those who argue for the effectiveness of traditional methods. Some view the shift as a sign of leniency, expressing concerns that it may lead to a lack of discipline and accountability. B. Socioeconomic disparities. Challenges also arise from socioeconomic disparities that impact the ability of parents and educators to adopt modern discipline practices. Limited resources and access to supportive environments can hinder the implementation of positive reinforcement and holistic development approaches. C. Perceived cultural appropriation. In attempting to incorporate cultural sensitivity, there is a risk of perceived cultural appropriation. It is essential to strike a balance between acknowledging cultural backgrounds and avoiding stereotypes or tokenism in disciplinary practices. V. Case studies and success stories. To provide a comprehensive understanding of the impact of old school and new school discipline, examining case studies and success stories is crucial. Examples of schools or communities that have successfully transitioned to more modern and holistic approaches can offer insights into the benefits of such a shift. 6. Conclusion. Discipline in Black children today is a dynamic and evolving field that reflects both historical legacies and contemporary insights. The shift from old school to new school perspectives signifies a recognition of the importance of fostering positive development, cultural sensitivity, and empowerment. While challenges persist, the ongoing conversation around discipline in Black communities holds the potential to reshape educational and familial practices, contributing to the well-being and success of future generations. Ultimately, the exploration of these approaches allows for a nuanced understanding of the complex interplay between discipline, culture, and societal expectations in the context of Black children's lives. Promises Unfulfilled: The Saga of 40 Acres and a Mule. Introduction. In the aftermath of the Civil War, the promise of 40 acres and a mule emerged as a symbol of hope and reparation for the formerly enslaved African Americans. This narrative explores the historical context, the origin of the promise, and the subsequent betrayal that left a lasting impact on the quest for racial equality in the United States. The historical context. As the Civil War drew to a close in 1865, the United States faced the daunting task of reconstructing a nation torn apart by conflict. The question of how to integrate newly emancipated slaves into American society loomed large. The Freedmen's Bureau, a federal agency established to assist freed slaves and poor whites in the South, played a key role in addressing this challenge. The promise. General William T. Sherman, a Union Army commander, issued Special Field Order No. 15 on January 16, 1865. This order allocated confiscated Confederate land along the southeastern coast for the settlement of freed slaves. Each family was to receive up to 40 acres of land and, in some cases, a mule to assist with agricultural labor. This promise was envisioned as a means to provide economic autonomy and self-sufficiency to African American families who had endured centuries of enslavement. The betrayal. The hopes inspired by the promise of 40 acres and a mule were short-lived. With the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln and the shift in political dynamics, the commitment to land redistribution was undermined. President Andrew Johnson, who succeeded Lincoln, reversed some of the Reconstruction policies, including the land distribution plan. The Freedmen's Bureau, despite its initial efforts, faced numerous obstacles in implementing the promise. Many white landowners opposed the redistribution of their land, and political compromises further eroded the commitment to reparations. As a result, the vast majority of freed slaves never received the promised 40 acres or a mule. Legacy and impact. The betrayal of the promise of 40 acres and a mule had far-reaching consequences for the African American community. Denied access to the economic resources needed for true autonomy, many freed slaves found themselves trapped in cycles of poverty and dependence. The broken promise also set the stage for the systemic discrimination and economic disparities that persist to this day. The narrative of 40 acres and a mule remains a poignant symbol of the unfulfilled promises made during the Reconstruction era. The episode highlights the challenges of achieving reparations and economic justice for Black Americans and serves as a stark reminder of the complexities inherent in the pursuit of racial equality. Contemporary reflections. In contemporary discussions about reparations and social justice, the broken promise of 40 acres and a mule is often cited as a historical precedent. The enduring impact of this unfulfilled commitment underscores the ongoing struggle for economic equality and the need for comprehensive measures to address historical injustices. Conclusion. The promise of 40 acres and a mule represents a pivotal moment in American history, symbolizing both the aspirations and the betrayals of the Reconstruction era. Understanding this narrative is crucial for comprehending the persistent challenges faced by the African American community in their quest for justice, equality, and economic empowerment. As we reflect on this historical episode, it is essential to recognize the unfinished work of repairing the damages inflicted by centuries of slavery and systemic discrimination, emphasizing the importance of continued efforts towards a more just and equitable society. Carter G. Woodson, often hailed as the father of Black history, was a pioneering figure in American academia, activism, and historical scholarship. His life's work was dedicated to elevating the history and contributions of African Americans, challenging the prevailing narratives of his time that often marginalized or ignored the Black experience. Through his scholarship, activism, and educational initiatives, Woodson laid the foundation for the study of Black history in the United States, fundamentally reshaping how we understand and teach the past. This essay will delve into the life, work, and enduring legacy of Carter G. Woodson, examining his contributions to academia, his advocacy for the recognition of Black history, and his lasting impact on education and social justice in America. Early life and education. Carter Godwin Woodson was born on December 19, 1875, in New Canton, Virginia, to former slaves James and Eliza Woodson. Growing up in the post-Civil War South, Woodson experienced firsthand the challenges and injustices faced by African Americans in a society still deeply entrenched in racial discrimination and segregation. Despite these obstacles, Woodson's parents instilled in him a deep appreciation for education and learning, values that would shape his future endeavors. Woodson's early education was sporadic due to the demands of farm work, but his thirst for knowledge was insatiable. He eventually enrolled in high school in Huntington, West Virginia, where he excelled academically. After completing his high school education, Woodson attended Berea College in Kentucky, one of the few institutions of higher learning open to African Americans at the time. He graduated with a Bachelor of Literature degree in 1903, going on to further his education at the University of Chicago, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1907. Followed by a Master of Arts in 1908. Woodson's academic pursuits were driven by his desire to challenge the prevailing notions of Black inferiority perpetuated by mainstream society. He believed fervently in the importance of education as a tool for empowerment and social change, a belief that would shape his life's work. Founding the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. In 1915, Carter G. Woodson, along with Jesse E. Moreland, founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, ASNLH, an organization dedicated to researching and promoting the history and achievements of African Americans. At a time when Black history was largely ignored or distorted in academic circles, the ASNLH provided a platform for scholars and activists to collaborate and disseminate knowledge about the Black experience in America. One of the ASNLH's most significant contributions was the establishment of Negro History Week in February 1926. This annual event, which later evolved into Black History Month, aimed to promote the study of Black history in schools and communities across the country. By dedicating a specific period to the celebration and recognition of Black achievements, Woodson hoped to counteract the prevailing narratives of Black inferiority and highlight the contributions of African Americans to the cultural, political, and economic development of the United States. Woodson's vision for Black History Month was rooted in his belief that understanding and appreciating one's history was essential for building a sense of identity and self-worth. He saw education as a means of liberation, empowering African Americans to challenge the systemic injustices that plagued their communities. Scholarship and contributions to Black history. Throughout his career, Carter G. Woodson authored numerous books and articles on African American history, earning him recognition as one of the foremost scholars in the field. His seminal work, The Miseducation of the Negro, published in 1933, critiqued the American educational system for its failure to adequately teach Black history and culture. Woodson argued that the omission of Black contributions from the curriculum perpetuated a cycle of ignorance and oppression, depriving African American students of a true understanding of their heritage. In addition to his academic writing, Woodson also played a pivotal role in preserving and disseminating primary sources related to Black history. He founded the Journal of Negro History in 1916, providing a platform for scholars to publish their research and engage in scholarly discourse on topics ranging from slavery and emancipation to Black leadership and activism. Woodson's commitment to scholarship and activism intersected in his efforts to challenge racial stereotypes and promote racial pride and self-determination among African Americans. He believed that by reclaiming their history and asserting their cultural identity, Black Americans could challenge the prevailing systems of oppression and work towards a more just and equitable society. Legacy and impact. Carter G. Woodson's contributions to the study of Black history and the advancement of African American rights cannot be overstated. His tireless efforts to promote the recognition and celebration of Black achievements laid the groundwork for the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s, inspiring future generations of activists and scholars to continue the fight for racial equality. In recognition of his pioneering work, Woodson was posthumously awarded the NAACP Spingarn Medal in 1926, the first African American to receive the honor. His legacy lives on through the continued observance of Black History Month, which serves as a testament to his enduring impact on American society. Conclusion. Carter G. Woodson's legacy as the father of Black history is a testament to the power of education, activism, and scholarship in challenging systemic racism and promoting social change. His lifelong dedication to uncovering and preserving the history of African Americans laid the foundation for a more inclusive and equitable understanding of the past. Through his work with the ASNLH, his scholarly writings, and his advocacy for Black education and empowerment, Woodson transformed the way we think about race, history, and identity in America. As we continue to grapple with issues of racial injustice and inequality, the struggle for Black voting rights in the United States, a comprehensive examination. Introduction. The right to vote is considered a cornerstone of democracy, empowering citizens to participate in shaping their government and influencing policy decisions. Throughout American history, the journey toward ensuring voting rights for all citizens, regardless of race, has been marked by struggle and perseverance. This comprehensive exploration delves into the evolution of the right for Black Americans to vote, spanning from the post-Civil War era to the contemporary challenges faced in the 21st century. Post-Civil War Reconstruction and the 15th Amendment. The aftermath of the Civil War brought about a transformative period known as Reconstruction. During this time, 1865 to 1877, the United States sought to rebuild the nation and address the rights of newly emancipated slaves. The 15th Amendment, ratified in 1870, aimed to secure voting rights for African American men by prohibiting the denial of suffrage based on race, color, or previous servitude, initial gains, and subsequent setbacks. While the 15th Amendment represented a significant milestone, its implementation faced numerous challenges. Southern states, through the enactment of Jim Crow laws and literacy tests, sought to disenfranchise Black voters, effectively nullifying the constitutional guarantees. Violence and intimidation. The Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist groups unleashed a wave of violence and intimidation against Black voters. Lynchings, bombings, and other acts of terror aimed to suppress political participation and maintain white supremacy in the South. Plessy versus Ferguson and the emergence of legal segregation. The late 19th century saw a shift in the legal landscape with the infamous Plessy versus Ferguson Supreme Court decision in 1896. This ruling established the separate but equal doctrine, providing a legal foundation for racial segregation. The consequences of this decision reverberated into the voting rights arena. Poll taxes and literacy tests. Southern states intensified efforts to disenfranchise Black voters through the implementation of poll taxes and literacy tests. These measures disproportionately affected African Americans, who faced systemic barriers to education and economic opportunities. Grandfather clauses. Another method employed to circumvent the 15th Amendment was the implementation of grandfather clauses, which exempted individuals from literacy tests and poll taxes if their grandfathers had been eligible to vote. This effectively maintained white supremacy by excluding descendants of slaves. The Civil Rights Movement and Voting Rights Act of 1965. The mid-20th century witnessed a renewed push for civil rights, culminating in the Civil Rights Movement. The struggle for racial equality, led by figures such as Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks, was pivotal in addressing systemic discrimination, including barriers to voting rights. Bloody Sunday and the Selma to Montgomery March. The events of Bloody Sunday in 1965, where peaceful protesters advocating for voting rights were brutally attacked on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, galvanized public opinion. The subsequent Selma to Montgomery March led to increased national awareness and support for the voting rights cause. Voting Rights Act of 1965. Responding to the widespread disenfranchisement of black voters, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law. The act aimed to eliminate discriminatory voting practices, particularly in the South, by enforcing federal oversight of elections, prohibiting literacy tests, and authorizing the federal government to register voters in areas with a history of discrimination. Contemporary challenges to black voting rights. While significant progress has been made since the Voting Rights Act, challenges to black voting rights persist in the 21st century. Various factors contribute to ongoing disparities in electoral participation. Voter ID laws. Some states have implemented voter ID laws, requiring individuals to present specific forms of identification to vote. Critics argue that these laws disproportionately impact minority communities, including black voters, who may face barriers to obtaining the required identification. Gerrymandering. Gerrymandering, the manipulation of electoral district boundaries to favor a particular political party, can dilute the voting power of minority communities. Black voters often find their influence diminished through the strategic drawing of district lines. Felony disenfranchisement. Felony disenfranchisement laws, which restrict voting rights for individuals with felony convictions, disproportionately affect Black Americans. These laws, rooted in historical racial disparities in the criminal justice system, result in a significant portion of the Black population being unable to vote. Closing polling places. In some areas, particularly in predominantly Black neighborhoods, there have been instances of closing polling places or reducing early voting opportunities. This can create logistical challenges for voters and discourage participation. Conclusion. The struggle for Black voting rights in the United States is a complex and ongoing narrative that reflects the nation's journey toward a more inclusive democracy. From the post-Civil War Reconstruction era to the Civil Rights Movement and the contemporary challenges faced in the 21st century, the fight for equal voting rights has been marked by progress and setbacks. Recognizing the historical context and understanding the contemporary barriers is essential in fostering a more equitable electoral system and ensuring that all citizens can fully participate in the democratic process. The right to vote remains a fundamental aspect of citizenship, and the ongoing quest for universal suffrage continues to shape the trajectory of American democracy. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, a definitive analysis. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution stands as a landmark in the nation's history, representing a pivotal moment in the ongoing struggle for freedom and equality. Enacted in the aftermath of the Civil War, this amendment forever altered the legal landscape of the United States, abolishing the institution of slavery and setting the stage for the broader civil rights movements of the 20th century. In this comprehensive analysis, we will explore the historical context, significance, implications, and legacy of the 13th Amendment, delving into its legal, social, and cultural dimensions. Historical background. To understand the significance of the 13th Amendment, it is crucial to examine the historical context in which it emerged. The institution of slavery had been deeply entrenched in American society since the colonial era, with millions of Africans forcibly brought to the shores of the New World to toil in bondage. By the mid-19th century, tensions over the issue of slavery had reached a boiling point, culminating in the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861. As the war progressed, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, declaring that all slaves in the Confederate States were henceforth free. While this executive order marked a significant symbolic gesture, its legal authority was limited to areas under Confederate control. Moreover, it did not address the broader question of slavery's legality within the United States. Enactment of the amendment. Following Lincoln's re-election in 1864 and the Union's eventual victory in the Civil War, the push to abolish slavery through a constitutional amendment gained momentum. On January 31, 1865, the 13th Amendment was passed by Congress, with the Senate approving it by a vote of 38 to 6 and the House of Representatives by a margin of 119 to 56. The amendment was then sent to the states for ratification. On December 6, 1865, the requisite 3/4 of the states, 27 out of 36 at the time, had ratified the 13th Amendment, and it was formally adopted into the Constitution. This historic milestone marked the official end of slavery in the United States, fundamentally altering the nation's legal framework and ushering in a new era of freedom for millions of African Americans. Key provisions. The 13th Amendment consists of a single, concise sentence, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction. This sweeping declaration unequivocally abolished slavery in all its forms, with the notable exception of involuntary servitude as punishment for criminal offenses, a provision that would have far-reaching implications in the decades to come. By outlawing slavery and involuntary servitude, the 13th Amendment struck at the heart of the institution that had been the bedrock of the Southern economy for centuries. It represented a definitive repudiation of the idea that one human being could own another as property, affirming the inherent dignity and equality of all individuals under the law. Significance and implications. The passage of the 13th Amendment had profound implications for American society, both immediately and in the long term. First and foremost, it marked the culmination of decades of struggle by abolitionists and reformers who had tirelessly campaigned for the eradication of slavery. With its enactment, the United States joined a growing number of nations around the world in outlawing one of the most egregious forms of human exploitation. Moreover, the 13th Amendment laid the groundwork for the broader project of Reconstruction, the ambitious effort to rebuild the South and integrate millions of newly freed African Americans into American society. In the years following the Civil War, Congress passed a series of additional amendments, the 14th and 15th Amendments, that sought to secure equal rights and protections for all citizens, regardless of race. However, despite the noble intentions behind the 13th Amendment, its implementation faced numerous challenges and setbacks. The rise of segregationist policies such as Jim Crow laws, along with widespread violence and intimidation by white supremacist groups like the Ku Klux Klan, effectively undermined many of the gains made during Reconstruction. African Americans continued to face systemic discrimination and oppression, both in the South and in other parts of the country. Legacy and contemporary relevance. Despite these challenges, the 13th Amendment remains a cornerstone of the American legal system and a symbol of the ongoing struggle for justice and equality. Its legacy continues to reverberate through the corridors of power and the halls of academia, shaping debates over issues such as mass incarceration, racial justice, and economic inequality. In recent years, there has been renewed interest in the 13th Amendment and its implications for contemporary society. Documentaries such as Ava DuVernay's 13th have brought attention to the ways in which the loophole allowing for involuntary servitude as punishment for crime has been exploited to perpetuate forms of modern-day slavery, particularly within the criminal justice system. Moreover, the Black Lives Matter movement and other grassroots activists have called attention to the enduring legacy of slavery and systemic racism in American society, demanding reforms to address the inequities that continue to plague communities of color. Calls to abolish or reform the prison industrial complex, end the practice of convict leasing, and provide reparations to the descendants of enslaved people are just some of the ways in which the legacy of the 13th Amendment remains relevant today. Conclusion. In conclusion, the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution represents a watershed moment in American history, marking the end of centuries of legalized slavery and laying the foundation for the ongoing struggle for civil rights and social justice. Its passage and ratification were the culmination of decades of activism and sacrifice by abolitionists, reformers, and formerly enslaved individuals who dared to envision a more just and equitable society. Yet, while the 13th Amendment achieved the lofty goal of abolishing slavery, its legacy is discipline in Black children today, navigating old-school approaches and modern perspectives. Introduction. The subject of discipline in Black children is multifaceted, shaped by historical, cultural, and societal factors. Traditional or old-school methods of discipline often varied widely, incorporating both positive and negative approaches. In contrast, contemporary or new school perspectives emphasize a more holistic and nuanced approach, considering the impact of discipline on a child's psychological and emotional well-being. This article aims to explore the evolution of discipline in Black children, comparing old-school methods to new school approaches, and considering the implications for child development and the broader community. Historical context of old-school discipline. Legacy of slavery. The historical context of discipline in Black children is deeply rooted in the legacy of slavery, where brutal methods were employed to control and subjugate individuals. This historical trauma has had lasting effects on Black communities, shaping perceptions of discipline and authority. Corporal punishment. Old-school discipline often included the use of corporal punishment as a means of correcting behavior. Spanking, whipping, or other forms of physical discipline were considered acceptable methods in many households and educational institutions. The belief in the adage, "spare the rod, spoil the child," was prevalent, contributing to the normalization of corporal punishment. Strict hierarchical structures. Old-school discipline was often characterized by strict hierarchical structures, where children were expected to show unwavering respect for authority figures, including parents, teachers, and elders. Disobedience or disrespect was met with swift and sometimes harsh consequences. Fear-based discipline. Fear was a significant motivator in old-school discipline. Children were often disciplined in ways that instilled fear, aiming to deter undesirable behavior through the anticipation of negative consequences. This approach, however, had implications for the emotional and psychological well-being of the child. New school perspectives on discipline. Psychological understanding. Modern perspectives on discipline prioritize a more nuanced understanding of child psychology. Recognizing the impact of trauma and the importance of positive reinforcement, new school approaches aim to foster a child's emotional and psychological well-being rather than relying solely on punitive measures. Positive reinforcement. The emphasis on positive reinforcement is a key aspect of contemporary discipline. Rather than focusing solely on punishment, new school approaches seek to reinforce positive behavior through encouragement, praise, and rewards. This shift recognizes the importance of building a child's self-esteem and confidence. Communication and dialogue. Communication is a cornerstone of new school discipline. Parents, educators, and caregivers are encouraged to engage in open and constructive dialogue with children, fostering a sense of understanding and trust. This approach values the child's perspective and encourages them to express themselves. Holistic development. New school perspectives prioritize holistic development, considering not only academic success but also emotional, social, and physical well-being. The goal is to create an environment that supports the child's overall growth and encourages the development of critical thinking skills. 3. Cultural dynamics and discipline. Cultural sensitivity. Discipline in Black children is often influenced by cultural dynamics. New school approaches advocate for cultural sensitivity, recognizing the importance of understanding and respecting cultural backgrounds. This includes acknowledging the impact of historical trauma on disciplinary practices within Black communities. Empowerment and identity. New school perspectives seek to empower Black children by promoting a positive sense of identity. Discipline is approached in a way that uplifts rather than diminishes a child's sense of self-worth. This includes incorporating culturally relevant elements into educational and disciplinary practices. Breaking the school-to-prison pipeline. An important aspect of modern perspectives on discipline in Black children involves addressing the school-to-prison pipeline. Disproportionate disciplinary actions, particularly for Black boys, have contributed to a cycle of incarceration. New school approaches aim to break this cycle by implementing restorative justice practices and promoting a supportive school environment. 4. Challenges and criticisms. A. Resistance to change. The transition from old school to new school discipline faces resistance from those who argue for the effectiveness of traditional methods. Some view the shift as a sign of leniency, expressing concerns that it may lead to a lack of discipline and accountability. B. Socioeconomic disparities. Challenges also arise from socioeconomic disparities that impact the ability of parents and educators to adopt modern discipline practices. Limited resources and access to supportive environments can hinder the implementation of positive reinforcement and holistic development approaches. C. Perceived cultural appropriation. In attempting to incorporate cultural sensitivity, there is a risk of perceived cultural appropriation. It is essential to strike a balance between acknowledging cultural backgrounds and avoiding stereotypes or tokenism in disciplinary practices. V. Case studies and success stories. To provide a comprehensive understanding of the impact of old school and new school discipline, examining case studies and success stories is crucial. Examples of schools or communities that have successfully transitioned to more modern and holistic approaches can offer insights into the benefits of such a shift. 6. Conclusion. Discipline in Black children today is a dynamic and evolving field that reflects both historical legacies and contemporary insights. The shift from old school to new school perspectives signifies a recognition of the importance of fostering positive development, cultural sensitivity, and empowerment. While challenges persist, the ongoing conversation around discipline in Black communities holds the potential to reshape educational and familial practices, contributing to the well-being and success of future generations. Ultimately, the exploration of these approaches allows for a nuanced understanding of the complex interplay between discipline, culture, and societal expectations in the context of Black children's lives. Exploring the contributions of 3 to 5 significant figures in Black history. Introduction. Black history is rich and diverse, filled with the stories of individuals who have made lasting contributions to society, culture, and the fight for equality. In this exploration, we will delve into the lives and achievements of 3 to 5 significant figures in Black history, spanning different fields and time periods. These individuals have left an indelible mark, challenging norms, breaking barriers, and shaping the course of history. Frederick Douglass, a beacon of abolitionism and civil rights, 1818 to 1895. Frederick Douglass, born into slavery, rose to become one of the most influential figures in the 19th century abolitionist movement. His journey from bondage to freedom was marked by an unwavering commitment to justice and equality. Douglass became a powerful orator, writer, and statesman, advocating for the emancipation of enslaved individuals and the full recognition of civil rights for African Americans. Narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, 1845. Douglass's autobiographical work, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, provided a searing first-hand account of the brutality of slavery. His eloquent prose and compelling narrative became a powerful tool in the abolitionist movement. Speeches and activism. Douglass's speeches, including his famous "What to the Slave is the 4th of July" address, resonated with audiences across the nation. His activism extended beyond the abolition of slavery to advocating for women's rights and suffrage. Role in the Civil War and Reconstruction. During the Civil War, Douglass played a crucial role in recruiting African American soldiers for the Union Army. After the war, he continued to push for equal rights during the tumultuous period of Reconstruction. Ida B. Wells, trailblazing journalist and anti-lynching activist, 1862 to 1931. Ida B. Wells, a pioneering investigative journalist, was a fearless advocate for civil rights and a relentless crusader against lynching. Born into slavery, Wells emerged as a powerful force in the fight against racial injustice, leaving an enduring legacy in the realms of journalism and activism. Anti-lynching campaign. Wells's investigative journalism exposed the horrors of lynching in the post-Reconstruction South. Her groundbreaking work, Southern Horrors, Lynch Law in All Its Phases, and The Red Record, documented the prevalence of lynching and its use as a tool of racial terrorism. Journalistic career. As a co-owner and editor of the Memphis Free Speech and Headlight newspaper, Wells used her platform to confront racism and advocate for civil rights. Her fearless reporting and uncompromising stance made her a trailblazer in the field of investigative journalism. Women's suffrage. Wells was also an advocate for women's suffrage, challenging the exclusion of Black women from the mainstream suffragist movement. Her activism laid the groundwork for the intersectional approach to social justice that would later become central to the civil rights movement. Thurgood Marshall, legal giant and Supreme Court Justice, 1908 to 1993. Thurgood Marshall, a legal luminary and the first African-American Supreme Court Justice, played a pivotal role in dismantling legal segregation and advancing the cause of civil rights. Marshall's legal brilliance and strategic approach made him a key figure in the fight against racial inequality. Brown v. Board of Education, 1954. Thurgood Marshall served as the chief legal counsel for the NAACP and argued the landmark case of Brown v. Board of Education before the Supreme Court. The ruling, which declared state-sponsored segregation in public schools unconstitutional, was a historic turning point in the struggle for civil rights. Civil rights litigation. Marshall's legal career was marked by a series of groundbreaking victories in the realm of civil rights litigation. His victories included dismantling segregation in higher education and challenging racially biased practices in criminal justice. Supreme Court legacy. Appointed to the Supreme Court by President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1967, Marshall served as an Associate Justice for 24 years. His jurisprudence continued to advance the cause of civil rights, and his opinions and dissents left a lasting impact on the interpretation of constitutional law. Shirley Chisholm, Breaking Barriers in Politics, 1924 to 2005. Shirley Chisholm, a trailblazing politician, shattered both racial and gender barriers as the first African-American woman elected to the United States Congress and the first Black major party candidate for the presidency. Congressional career. Chisholm represented New York's 12th congressional district from 1969 to 1983. As a congresswoman, she advocated for education, social justice, and the rights of marginalized communities. Presidential campaign, 1972. In 1972, Shirley Chisholm made history by running for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. Despite facing significant obstacles, she campaigned on a platform of inclusivity and social justice, paving the way for future generations of diverse political candidates. Legacy of advocacy. Chisholm's legacy extends beyond her political career. She was a tireless advocate for the rights of women, minorities, and the economically disadvantaged. Her mantra, "Unbought and Unbossed," encapsulates her commitment to maintaining independence and advocating for the voiceless. Garrett Morgan, inventor and entrepreneur, 1877 to 1963. Garrett Morgan, an inventor and entrepreneur, left an indelible mark on the fields of safety and traffic management. His innovations not only saved lives, but also challenged racial stereotypes and prejudices prevalent during his time. Invention of the traffic signal. One of Morgan's most significant contributions was the invention of the three-position traffic signal. Patented in 1923, the device helped regulate traffic flow and prevent accidents. Despite facing initial skepticism due to his race, Morgan's invention became an integral part of urban infrastructure. Invention of the gas mask. During World War I, Morgan's ingenuity led to the creation of an early version of the gas mask. His invention, patented in 1914, was designed to protect individuals from inhaling toxic fumes. The U.S. Army later adopted his design, saving countless lives on the battlefield. Entrepreneurship and advocacy. In addition to his inventions, Morgan was a successful entrepreneur. He established the Cleveland Call, a newspaper that provided a platform for the African American community. Morgan's success challenged prevailing stereotypes about the capabilities of Black entrepreneurs. Conclusion. The stories of Frederick Douglass, Ida B. Wells, Thurgood Marshall, Shirley Chisholm, and Garrett Morgan are just a glimpse into the vast tapestry of Black history. These individuals, hailing from different time periods and fields, embody the resilience, courage, and innovation that have shaped the trajectory of the United States. Their contributions, though often overlooked, have had a profound and lasting impact on civil rights, journalism, law, politics, and innovation. By recognizing the significance of head coverings for women in worship, exploring cultural and religious perspectives. Introduction. The practice of women covering their heads during worship is deeply rooted in various cultural and religious traditions around the world. This act holds significant symbolism, reflecting the reverence, modesty, and submission to a higher power. This article aims to delve into the diverse reasons behind women covering their heads during worship, exploring the cultural, religious, and historical contexts that contribute to this practice. I. Cultural perspectives on head coverings. A. Historical evolution. The use of head coverings has a rich history across different cultures, evolving over centuries. In some cultures, head coverings were initially worn as a practical means of protection against the elements. Over time, these coverings took on symbolic meanings related to identity, marital status, and social hierarchy. B. Symbolism of modesty. One common thread across various cultures is the association of head coverings with modesty. Many societies view the act of covering one's head as a sign of humility, respect, and adherence to societal norms. In certain cultures, women may cover their heads as a demonstration of modesty and adherence to traditional values, particularly during religious ceremonies. C. Expression of identity. In some cultures, head coverings serve as a means of expressing identity. Different types of head coverings may denote specific ethnic or religious affiliations, and wearing them during worship can be a way for women to connect with their cultural roots and traditions. 2. Religious perspectives on head coverings. A. Christianity, biblical references. The Christian tradition has diverse perspectives on the practice of women covering their heads during worship. In some Christian denominations, this practice is rooted in specific biblical passages, such as 1 Corinthians 11 verses 5-6, where it is mentioned, "But every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head." Interpretations of these verses vary, with some considering it a cultural practice of the time and others viewing it as a timeless symbol of submission and respect. Denominational differences. Different Christian denominations approach the practice of head covering in distinct ways. While some denominations uphold it as a traditional and meaningful ritual, others do not enforce or emphasize it, recognizing individual freedom and interpretation of Scripture. B. Islam. Hijab as a religious obligation. In Islam, the head covering, known as the hijab, is a religious obligation for Muslim women. It is derived from Quranic verses and hadiths, sayings and actions of Prophet Muhammad. The hijab is seen as a symbol of modesty, privacy, and adherence to Islamic principles. It extends beyond mere head covering, encompassing modest clothing that covers the entire body. Cultural and regional variations. While the hijab is a common practice among Muslim women, there are variations in style and interpretation based on cultural and regional differences. Some women wear the hijab as a personal choice and a reflection of their religious identity, while others may face societal or legal pressures to conform to specific dress codes. See Judaism. Tradition and respect. In traditional Jewish communities, the practice of women covering their heads is often associated with the concept of tzniut, or modesty. Married Jewish women, in particular, may cover their heads with scarves, hats, or wigs as a sign of respect and adherence to religious traditions. The specific customs can vary among different Jewish sections. Synagogue worship. The tradition of covering the head during worship is particularly emphasized in synagogue settings. Men may also cover their heads with kippahs, yarmulkes, as a sign of respect and recognition of the divine presence. 3. Modern perspectives and challenges. A. Feminist perspectives. The practice of women covering their heads has been a subject of debate within feminist circles. Some argue that it reinforces patriarchal norms and restricts women's agency, while others contend that women should have the autonomy to choose whether or not to cover their heads based on personal conviction. Legal and social challenges. In some societies, the practice of head covering is not only a religious or cultural choice but may also be influenced by legal and social factors. Women in certain regions may face legal requirements or societal pressures to cover their heads, leading to debates over individual freedom and the right to religious expression. See evolving traditions. In the modern era, cultural and religious traditions are subject to reinterpretation and adaptation. Some women may choose to reinterpret or modify the practice of head covering to align with their personal beliefs while respecting the essence of the tradition. 4. Personal narratives and experiences. To gain a deeper understanding of the significance of head coverings, exploring personal narratives and experiences is essential. Interviews with women from different cultural and religious backgrounds can provide insight into the individual motivations, challenges, and spiritual connections associated with this practice. Conclusion. The practice of women covering their heads during worship is a multifaceted and deeply ingrained tradition that spans various cultures and religions. Whether rooted in historical symbolism, religious obligation, or cultural identity, head coverings carry profound significance for those who observe this practice. Understanding the cultural and religious contexts, as well as considering the evolving perspectives and challenges in contemporary society, enriches the discourse surrounding this age-old tradition. By exploring the diverse reasons behind women